Yes, sir. Good evening to all of you. And today is our third day of this GST live course on the series Complete GST Law with a concept of practical aspects. Okay, sir. So you all are enjoying the session or not? Uh, we have discussed on the topic supply, that is section 7 of CGST Act. We had already discussed on the constitutional background of GST, that is article 246A. Sir, once confirm in the chat box my voice is audible or not, and PPT is visible to all of you. This needs to be confirmation from your side in the chat box. Okay, sir. So just revise all the things which we had discussed in last 3 days, 2 days. So, sir, we had discussed on the constitutional background, Article 246A. Then, after we had discussed on the term supply, that is, supply include sale, exchange, barter, license, lease, disposal, or agreed to be disposal made for a consideration in the course or furtherance of business. These two terms are important. We had already discussed that in case of import of services, in the course or furtherance of business is not required if it is for a consideration. And schedule 1 is talk about all the activities where without consideration those activity or transactions should be treated as your supply. Then after we had discussed on schedule 2 of CGST Act, Schedule 2 of CGST Act says that all the activities or transactions which are treated as a supply, that can be classified as supply of service or supply of goods, that will be depend on Schedule 2. And we had discussed a very important term, that if title is transferred, in that case that should be treated as supply of goods, and if only the right to use is transferred, in that case the same shall be treated as your supply of services. After that we had also discussed on composite supply, that is restaurant services and works contract services. After that we had discussed on the schedule 3 of CGST Act, that is your employer-employee relationship, your services provided by central government, state government, local authority, or any person who is holding any post under the Constitution of India. We had discussed on that. After that, we had discussed on section 8 of CGST Act, composite supply and mixed supply. Composite supply, that means naturally bundled supply. In that case, principal supply की rate वहां पर applicable हो जाएगी. After that, we had discussed on the term charging section, that is section 9 of CGST Act, in which we had discussed the highest rate under GST is 20%. And after that we had discussed that 5 petroleum product will be in GST area after recommendation by GST Council. Also we had discussed that there is no GST on alcoholic liquor for human consumption. After that we had discussed the term reverse charge mechanism. There is two mechanisms available, one is forward charge and another is reverse charge. Under reverse charge, recipient has to pay the tax as per section 9 subsection 3. Recipient has to pay the tax on following category, on certain category of goods or certain category of services. Okay, sir. We had discussed all these topics in our last 2 day session. Now, today we are going to discuss on all the categories which is mentioned under reverse charge mechanism. What are the category of goods? What are the category of services on which RCM is applicable? That is, on which recipient is liable to pay the tax. Sir, section 9 subsection 3 we had already discussed. Okay, regarding category of services. Now, journal provision regarding RCM reverse charge mechanism say related to reverse charge mechanism, there is certain conception. Okay, first one is RCM supply does not included my aggregate turnover, because I am paying the tax in the capacity of recipient, so this is not my turnover, hence the same is not included while calculating the term turnover. Next, RCM tax does not included in output tax. That means when we are going to file our GSTR 3B return, we can check that in GSTR 3B return we are showing separately the supply, inward supply liable to reverse charge, and after that we are going to claim the input tax credit separately related to reverse charge mechanism. Separate provision in case of supply of time of supply of goods. In our today's session we will also discuss on time of supply, so at that time we will discuss on that term. Okay, if anyone liable for reverse charge mechanism, then in that case turnover limit is not applicable for taking the registration. That means as per law I am liable for registration. That is, I am buying those products which is mentioned in the list provided in section 9 subsection 3. Okay, so I need to take the registration, and when I need to take the registration under reverse charge mechanism, in that case चाहे मेरा टर्नओवर कुछ भी हो, there is no any relevance of your turnover, there is no relevance of the turnover, you need to take the registration under GST. Okay sir. Now, mechanism of payment. We had already discussed that in case of reverse charge mechanism, you need to first pay the tax, okay, in GSTR 3B, and then after, in the same month, you are eligible to take the input tax credit of your payment of tax. That is what is the concept, that is what is the mechanism for payment of tax under reverse charge. Next. Sir, my speed is okay. Everything is okay. Please comment in chat box. If you have any issue, you can mention the same in the chat box. Now, tax head in case of reverse charge mechanism. Sir, question arises. Actually, I need to maintain my speed because the topic is really very wide, subject is really very wide, and we need to cover each and everything in the given time. So that I am just maintaining my speed. Although if you have any issue, you may raise the same in the chat box so that I can maintain my speed. Now, tax head in case of reverse charge mechanism. Sir, question is that in case of reverse charge mechanism, I need to charge CGST, SGST or IGST. Just I am going to take one example that I had bought certain goods from Gujarat. Okay, and I had paid freight to that Gujarat party. That means जो गुजरात का transporter है, I had paid the freight to that person. In that case, the transporter has provided me the bill. In that case, on that bill, he has mentioned the GST on of Gujarat, and I am going to pay that person, and I am receiving the services, and now I am going to pay the tax under reverse charge mechanism. So, as per my mind, first concept I will do that on bill there is IGST, so I will pay the tax under IGST and I will claim the input tax credit under IGST. Okay, sir, this is the mechanism. Another, अगर मैं कॉमन सेंस की बात करूं, if I am talking from the common sense point of view or logical point of view, in that case government says that in case of your reverse charge mechanism, you need to do the self invoicing. That means I need to prepare the invoice, and by preparing that invoice I need to pay the tax to the government. That means I am preparing the invoices at my business premises, that is Rajasthan, and I am paying the tax at the same place. So, as per my opinion, as per logic, and as per law, CGST and SGST should be charged because I am doing the self invoicing. I am paying the tax under self invoicing capacity. So I need to charge CGST and SGST, and I need to take the input tax credit related to CGST and SGST. Is that okay? So there is two concept. One is related to in which you can check the GSTM or you can check the place of your transporter, and from that place you will decide the liability of CGST, SGST or IGST. Or in my opinion, you are paying tax under reverse charge mechanism. That is, you are doing the self invoicing. Since hence you need to do CGST and SGST. Is that okay? Now, where recipient is liable to pay the tax on all supplies, then in that case, supplier is not liable to take the registration, because here I am doing those particular type of supply in which tax under reverse charge is applicable. That means recipient has to pay the tax on those classes. In that case, there is no liability on me to pay the tax. Hence, I am not eligible to pay the tax. Hence, there is no requirement to take the registration under GST for supplier if recipient is liable to pay the tax under reverse charge mechanism. Sir, is that okay? Next, suppose I am an agriculturalist. I am an agriculturalist and I am supplying goods. I am supplying the agricultural produce. Okay. Agricultural produce from the cultivation of land. Okay. So if any agricultural produce related to cultivation of land, in that case, that product will be exempted. So when the principal part is exempted, in that case, the other ancillary services will be exempted. So this is the important point, that if you are dealing with those product which is exempted under GST, in that case, the service part related to those product, that is freight related to those product, transportation related to those product, will also be exempted. That is what is the concept of GST. Okay, sir. So this is the basic part. Now, procedure for reverse charge क्या होता है? Recipient has to prepare invoice as soon as he received the supply from the supplier, where supplier is not liable to pay the tax, and invoice has to be prepared in his own name, and the same has been submitted in his return form. Okay, so I need to prepare the invoice. Hence, CGST and SGST should be charged. Now, sir, this is the basic concept of reverse charge mechanism. Now, sir, as per section 9, subsection 3, there is certain category of goods and certain category of services on which reverse charge will be applicable. Okay, we are not going to in very much deep related to those particular type of goods and those particular type of services. I am just briefly discuss on those particular goods and services so that we can cover the concept. Okay, the list is not required to be learned or memorized. This is general concept. We will discuss it in a practical way. Okay. Petroleum is not exempted. Petroleum is non-GST supply. Okay. Petroleum is not a exempted supply. Petroleum is a non-GST supply. Although the principal part is a non-GST supply, hence the transportation and other ancillary services will also be exempted. Okay. Hence जो freight होता है वो भी यहाँ पर exempted हो जाता है. That is उसके ऊपर भी यहाँ पर GST charge नहीं होगा. Now we are going to discuss on the list of goods. सबसे पहला first one is cashew nuts. This one is produced by the agriculturalist. Hence, agriculturalist is going to supply those products to the recipient. In that case, the supplier is not liable to pay the tax. Recipient is liable to pay the tax. In case of tendu leaves, tobacco leaves, this is also agricultural produce, and agriculturalist will produce those products, and the same shall be supplied to the recipient. In that case, recipient will be liable to pay the tax, supplier will not be liable to pay the tax. Silk yarn, those person who is manufacturing the silk yarn from the raw silk, in that case they will supply the same to the recipient. In those type of manufacturing process and selling process, recipient will be liable to pay the tax, supplier will not be liable to pay the tax. Lottery, because lottery is permitted by central government, state government, union territory, local authority. Sorry, lottery is permitted by state government or local authority. Lottery is not subject of any central government. So in that case, government is not going to pay any tax. So as an individual, in an individual capacity, you need to pay the tax. That means recipient needs to pay the tax in case of lottery. Then raw cotton. Raw cotton will be produced by the agriculturalist. Hence, basic concepts. These are the basic concepts. As I am agricultural, in maximum cases, I am not going to take the registration. Hence, government has prepared this list. Okay, because lawmakers जब कोई law बनाते हैं, they will consider each and every fact, and after considering each and every fact, they will come with the law. So basically हमको ये समझना है कि एग्रीकल्चरलिस्ट है, इस केस में रिसिपिएंट ही तो लाइबल होगा जीएसटी पे करने के लिए. इन दैट केस रिसिपिएंट विल बी लाइबल टू पे द टैक्स. Used vehicles, seized vehicles, all these goods provided by the supplied by the central government, state government, union territory to the recipient. In that case, recipient will be liable to pay the tax, supplier will not be liable to pay the tax. Purchase of priority sector lending certificates. This is a financial term, that is, this is bank providing the priority sector lending certificates. There are certain priority sector, that is MSME, okay, micro and small enterprises. Unke liye there are a facility of priority sector lending certificates. Of these certificates are provided by any person. In that case, for the charges, recipient will be liable to pay the tax, supplier will not be liable to pay the tax. Okay, so we had discussed the goods in which the reverse charge mechanism of provision will apply. Okay, there is no need to memorize these things. Just read all these points with logic, because with logic ये चीजें हमको याद रहेगी. Next, supply of services where GST is payable under reverse charge mechanism. Sir, goods is okay. Now supply of services, यहाँ पर logically समझने जैसा कुछ भी नहीं है. So I am just reading those points. Okay. In case of goods transport agency, that is GTA, we are going to discuss on that point. Okay. So in case of GTA, if GTA is paying tax at the rate of 5%, in that case recipient has to pay the tax under reverse charge mechanism. That is, I am a business owner and I am buying certain goods. Okay. And for transportation charges, I had paid freight to my transporter. In that case, if my transporter who is providing the transportation services, if he is going to pay the tax at the rate of 5%, in that case, I need to pay the tax under reverse charge also at the rate of 5%. Or if my transporter will pay tax at the rate of 12%, in that case, there is no need to pay the tax by the recipient, that is from the business owner. Okay, so this is the basic point regarding GTA, that if GTA is paying tax at the rate of 5%, then recipient has to pay the tax, or recipient is going to pay the tax at the rate of 12%. In that case, recipient is not required to pay the tax. Now, there is a circular notification regarding that, notification number 22/2017. Next, which we had discussed in our yesterday session, legal services. Sir, there is given the definition of legal services. Legal services means, they don't use the word includes, they use the word legal services means any services provided in relation to advice, consultancy, assistance in any manner, includes representational services before any court, tribunal or authority. That they not use the term written filing and written preparation and auditing services, they use the advocacy services. Okay, sir. So legal services also included under reverse charge mechanism. In that case, recipient has to pay the tax, recipient is liable to pay the tax, supplier is not liable to pay the tax. Okay, sir. Services provided by an arbitral tribunal to a business entity. In that case, business entity is liable to pay the tax under reverse charge mechanism. Sir, arbitral tribunal is not liable to pay the tax. Sir, ऐसा क्यों? Arbitral tribunal is a government entity or a undertaking of government. Okay, so he is providing the dispute resolution services to the business entities. In that case, business entity is liable to registration, liable to pay the tax. But if business entity is not registered under GST because his turnover is below the specified limit, in that case, there is no GST should be payable by the business entity under reverse charge mechanism. The same shall be clarified by the department, notification number 12/2017, 28/6/2017. Okay. In the material given, we had taken various notification, reference of various notification. You can download the notification from Google, or you may connect with me regarding discussion of any notification. Okay, sir. Sponsorship services provided to any body, corporate or partnership firm. In that case, जो रिसीव करेगा वो सर्विसेज, if I am providing the sponsorship services, I am just like that, I am sponsoring the course of GST Live Course. Okay, in that case I am providing the sponsorship services. So in that case, recipient is liable to pay the tax under reverse charge mechanism. That is, if I am going to provide those services to Batuk Consultancy Networking Private Limited, in that case, Batuk Consultancy will be liable to pay the tax under reverse charge mechanism. Sachin Jain is not liable to pay any type of taxes. Okay, sir. Service supplied by central government, state government, union territory, local authority. If any service is provided by those government entity, in that case, recipient will be liable to pay the tax. But excluding renting of immobile property. If government is providing any renting of immobile property, in that case, those services will not be covered under reverse charge mechanism. That is, services other than renting of immobile property, services by Department of Post by way of speed post, express parcel post, life insurance, journal insurance, or services in relation to aircraft vessel inside, outside the port or any airport, transport of goods or passenger. Sir, now question arises. Why they excluded these services? Because when we will discuss on section 17 subsection 5, that is blocked credit, we will also discuss on that key. यहाँ पर input related to those services is not eligible, that is input related to cost, input related to aircraft vessel, input related to transportation of passenger will not be eligible, so you are not able to take the benefit of input tax credit. And we had also discussed the term in schedule 3 of CGST act, that is transportation of passenger, transportation of vehicle is neither supply of goods nor supply of services. Then जब कोई चीज neither supply of goods nor supply of services है, also on those things I am not eligible to take the input tax credit, then why RCM shall be charged on those services? Hence government had excluded these terms. Okay sir, most probably exclusion का reason concept clear हो गया होगा. Next, renting of immovable property. Renting of immobile property services by central government, state government, union territory, local authority to GST registered person. In that case, the same shall be chargeable under reverse charge mechanism and business entity has to pay the tax under reverse charge. Transfer of development right, floor space index for construction of a project. Any person, recipient of services provide, promoter, that is, I am a business owner, I am a promoter of any company, okay, and I am going to start my business for that purpose. I am going to construct a project, that is and building. In that case, I am taking the development rights from any person. In that case, I am as a recipient will be liable to pay the tax. The supplier will not be liable to pay the tax. So logical we have, most probably I am getting those rights from the unregistered person or the small person. In that case, he will not be registered under GST. So this is my responsibility to pay the tax. Hence, government has included the transaction under reverse charge mechanism. जब भी आप कोई भी लॉ पढ़ते हो, whenever you will read any law, then first decide the term with logic, because when you will do it through logic or through your analytical skills, then you will memorize those things. You need not to make any extra efforts on that. Okay sir. So next, long term lease, 30 years or more, by any person against consideration in form of upfront amount, that is premium, salary, or price development charges, or by any other name, or periodic rent for construction of a project by a promoter. In that case, if I am going to my property for lease to a promoter, in that case promoter is liable to pay the tax under reverse charge mechanism. I need not to pay the any tax under forward charge mechanism. This is also a general and logical concept, that company and its promoter is liable to pay the tax. Why I need to pay the tax? Because I am a common man, okay, because I was not registered under GST at that time. ऑल्दो अब अगर मैं जीएसटी में रजिस्टर्ड भी हूं, फिर भी आई नीड नॉट टू पे द टैक्स अंडर फॉरवर्ड चार्ज, बिकॉज द सेम हैज बीन प्रिस्क्राइब्ड. If you take the factory on that, in that case RCM will be applicable, because in that case, if, sir, if I take a factory on rent, then RCM will applicable. No, in that case RCM will not be applicable. In that case you need to pay the tax under forward charge, okay, because as a factory owner, if your turnover is below 20 lakh rupees, in that case there is no need to pay any tax. But if your turnover is above 20 lakh rupees, in that case GST will be applicable. But if you are unregistered, that means, I just want to take one example so that concept got clear. I am an unregistered person. Just first take your example that I am an unregistered person, okay, और मैंने कोई फैक्ट्री रेंट पे ले ली. मिस्टर एक्स इज रजिस्टर्ड पर्सन अंडर जीएसटी, और उसको मैं रेंट का पेमेंट कर रहा हूं, एंड रेंट इज अबाउट 25 लाख रुपीज. इन दैट केस he needs to pay the tax on that rent, he needs to pay the GST on that rent. Second situation, I am not registered under GST and counterpart is also not registered under GST, and I have taken that property for commercial purposes and I am not registered under GST. In that case, no GST. But third situation, in that case, counterpart is not registered under GST. That is, landlord is not registered under GST, but I am, as in a tenant, I am already registered under GST. In that case, I need to pay the tax under reverse charge basis, because on commercial property, if the Supplier is unregistered. In that case, recipient has to pay the tax under reverse charge mechanism. Most probably concept got clear in your mind. Naresh ji, is that okay? Services supplied by a director of a company or body corporate or said company. That means I am as a director of any company, that is Batu Consultancy Private Limited, or as a director in a director capacity, I am providing any services to Batu Consultancy. In that case, on those services, Batu Consultancy needs to pay the tax under reverse charge mechanism. I am not liable to pay any type of tax. Services by any insurance agent to any person carrying on insurance business. In that case, also reverse charge mechanism is applicable. That means insurance business owner has to pay the tax. I am as an insurance agent, there is no liability on me to pay any tax. Okay. Recovery agent services to a bank or financial institution. Sir, if someone has taken loan from bank and if he is not going to repay that amount, in that case bank will appoint certain recovery agent from his panel. In that case, the recovery agent will recover that amount. For that purpose, bank will pay certain amount as a commission to that person or incentive to that recovery agent. In that case, recovery agent is not liable to pay any type of tax. Bank has to pay the tax under reverse charge mechanism. Say, copyright services of a music composer. I am as a music composer or as an artist or as a photographer. I am providing my services to any music company. In that case, for my services, music company is liable to pay the tax under reverse charge mechanism. I am as an individual not liable to pay the tax under reverse charge. RCM rate of rent is 18%. So RCM will be at the rate 18%. Supply of services by an author. That means I have written one book, okay, and I have transferred the permitting right to my publisher. In that case, publisher will paying me the royalty. Okay, in that case, I had supplied my services, although I need not to pay any tax because the publisher is paying the tax under reverse charge mechanism. In that case, author is not liable to pay any tax. Under reverse charge, Reserve Bank of India, there is a committee, or if any committee member will provide any services to Reserve Bank of India, in that case the member shall not be liable to pay any tax. The Reserve Bank of India will pay the tax under reverse charge mechanism. Multiple banks are going to appoint direct selling agent for expanding the business. And if DSA, that is direct selling agent, is providing any services to the bank or NBFC, in that case for those services, DSA is not liable to pay any tax. Bank has to pay the tax under reverse charge mechanism. Services provided by the business facilitator center. Multiple bank or NBFCs has appointed the business facilitators. Okay. Or if any business facilitators has provided the services to the bank, or for that purpose is receiving certain amount from bank as an incentive or as a commission, in that case, the business facilitator will not be liable to pay the tax. Bank has to pay the tax under reverse charge mechanism. Yes, this is applicable on shop rent also. जस्ट रेजिडेंशियल प्रॉपर्टी पे ये वाला प्रोविजन एप्लीकेबल नहीं होता है. दिस प्रोविजन विल नॉट एप्लीकेबल ऑन रेजिडेंशियल प्रॉपर्टी. ऑन ऑल अदर कमर्शियल प्रॉपर्टी दैट प्रोविजन विल बी एप्लीकेबल. Services provided by an agent of business correspondent to the business correspondent. That means if any agent is provide any services to the business, in that case the same shall be taxable and tax has to be paid by the business under reverse charge mechanism. Security services by way of supply of security personnel. I am as a security company and I am providing the security personnel to any business entity. Maximum business entities getting the security services from a security entity or security company. In that case, those business entities liable to pay the tax. The security company or security personnel is not liable to pay the tax, and the rate is 18%. Okay. Service provided by way of renting of any motor vehicle designed to carry passengers where cost of fuel is included in the consideration charged from the recipient. Sir, just take an example. I need to travel to Ahmedabad, okay, and I have connect with a transportation company, and I have said that person that I need to travel to Ahmedabad. What is the rate? He told me that there is a rate of 12 rupees per kilometer, and I paid that amount to him on the basis of kilometer, not on the basis of fuel. In that case, the same shall be treated as a supply under reverse charge mechanism. That is, that transporter agent has to pay the tax at the rate of 5%. I am not liable to pay the tax. Okay, this is also a logical provision. This is also a logical provision given under GST law. Services of lending of securities under security lending scheme. If I am going to lend my securities to any borrower company, in that case, borrower will liable to pay the tax under reverse charge mechanism. I am not liable to pay any tax. Okay, securities पे कोई भी tax नहीं pay करना है. Tax will be payable on the charges of securities lending. Okay, because security is a money, and money is not a good, so no tax on securities, but the charges on securities will be taxable, and tax has to be paid by the recipient of service at the rate of 18% under reverse charge mechanism. Most probably everything is clear in your mind. Sir, we had discussed on each and every point related to reverse charge mechanism. First, we had discussed on the category of services. Then after, we had discussed on the category of goods. Is that okay? Please comment in chat box. If everything is okay, then we will come to our next topic, that is time of supply. Sir, can we start? If transporter is not registered, in that case, transfer is not eligible to pay any type of taxes. Okay. And if the BLT value is more than 750 rupees, in that case, I need to pay the tax under reverse charge mechanism. If transporter is unregistered, in that case, there is no question on transporter to pay the tax. In that case, the recipient has to pay the tax. Now, sir, time of supply. Sir, as per section 7, we had decided that particular activity or transaction, yes, RCM will be applicable. As per section 7 of CGST Act, we had decided that particular transaction or activity is a supply. Okay, then after we had decided that supply of service or supply of goods. We had also talked on that recipient is liable to pay or tax or not. Then we had discussed that particular supply is a composite supply or mixed supply. Now, sir, question arises, on which time I need to pay the tax and what is the relevant time on which I need to pay the tax. And this is also a very relevant, very important aspect of law, because my liability to pay tax is in January, and if I am going to pay the tax in March, in that case, there is multiple penal provision, there is multiple interest implication will be there on me. So this is my basic duty that I need to pay the tax on time. And for deciding the time, we need to discuss on the term time of supply under GST. This is also very important part. Then after we will discuss on the value, that on which value I need to pay the tax. The first one is our time of supply. Because supply is decided, now we need to talk on time of supply. Sir, section 7, 8, 9 we had already discussed. Now section 12, time 12, time 12 सेक्शन को जस्ट मेमोराइज करने का एक छोटा सा तरीका है. दिस इज एन वे टू मेमोराइज द सेक्शन. दैट इज द 12 is related to time, hence section 12 of CGST Act is talking about time of supply. Now, sir, time of supply is different in case of supply of goods and supply of services. So section 12 talks about time of supply in case of goods, or section 13 talks about time of supply in case of supply of services. Okay, sir. So now first we are going to discuss on time of supply in case of supply of goods. Okay, now in case of supply of goods, first I just want to clear one thing, that in case of goods, if I am going to supply any goods to Mr. X, and for that purpose Mr. X has provided me an advance of rupees 50,000. In that case, there is no GST applicable on advance on account of goods. Okay, sir. So this point is kept in your mind. In case of supply of services, if I got the advance, in that case, on advances, GST should be charged. But in case of advances on account of goods, there is no GST on advances. Okay. So now we are going to discuss the provision. Section 12 subsection 2. The time of supply of goods shall be the earlier of following dates. Earlier of following dates. The date of issue of invoice by the supplier and the last date on which he is required under section 31. What is mentioned in section 31? We will discuss it. Okay. Now, just point is that the date of invoice is your time of supply. Next. Or the date on which supplier receives the payment with respect to the supply. और यहाँ पर they said earlier of the following. Okay, that means my invoice or payment whichever is earlier. Sir, अभी हम लोगों ने discuss किया, we had discussed that in case of goods, if I got the advances, then no GST. So this point is not related here, relevant here. I just need to check that my date of invoice is my date of time of supply in case of supply of goods. Okay, sir. Now, इन्होंने बहुत ही important बात लिख दी, and important talk is there that if the invoice is for 1 lakh rupees and I got 1 lakh rupees 500 from my recipient, in that case, for that 500 rupees, this is my option. I may pay the tax on that 500 rupees with the current supply, or I may pay the tax on 500 rupees in the next period. Okay, sir. So up to 1000 rupees, there is option in my hand. That is, the option is in supplier hand. Amount up to 1000 rupees. Okay, sir. The option is in hand of the supplier. Okay, this point is clear. In case of supply of goods, the date of invoice will be your time of supply. Now, in case of reverse charge mechanism, what is the time of supply? That is, if I am as in a recipient, but I got those product or services on which reverse charge is applicable. In that case, what is the time on which I need to pay the tax? Or what is the time on which my liability to pay tax is arises? So for that purpose, the earliest of following dates. First one, date of receipt of goods. जिस दिन मैंने goods receive कर दिया, the date on which I got the goods. Second, the date of payment entered in the books of accounts, or the date on which amount is debited from my bank account. That is, मैंने जिस दिन मेरे बैंक अकाउंट के अंदर अमाउंट डेबिट हो गया, या फिर जिस दिन मैंने बुक्स के अंदर मेरा पेमेंट एंटर कर दिया, विच एवर इज अर्लियर. एंड थर्ड कंडीशन, the date immediately following the 30 days from the date of issue of invoice. In तीनों में से whichever is earlier, that will be my time of supply. Just take an example. uh, my I got the goods, I received the goods on 16/10. Okay, I got the goods on 16/10, but I entered the that amount in my books of accounts. That is, I entered that transaction in my books of accounts on 18/10, and on the same day I made the payment to the supplier. That is, the my bank account is debited. Okay, or from 30 days from the invoice. Suppose my invoice date is 15. So is date say 30 days, that is approx my 14th of 11, or my date of receipt of goods, or date of payment in bank account, whichever is earlier. That means in this case 16/10 is my time of supply. Is that okay, sir? 16/10 is my time of supply. This is the practical example which I had presented in front of you. Okay, sir. This is a practical example. You may change the date and try to got the date of time of supply. Next scenario. In case of vouchers, sir, what do you mean by vouchers? Suppose I bought certain things from Reliance Trends. Okay, in that case, Reliance Trends will give me certain vouchers, and on those vouchers, I am eligible to take certain discount on my next buying. In that case, if the amount is identifiable or if the product is identifiable, in that case the time of supply is on which the date of issue of voucher. Okay, but if the supply is not identifiable, in that case the redemption of voucher. That means Reliance has given me one voucher that, sir, on your next buying you will got a product of 500 rupees. In that case 500 will be included in my value of supply and I need to pay the tax on that also. And the time of supply will be the date of issue of voucher because the product is identifiable. But we may take the next situation. If Reliance has say that on this voucher on your next buying you will get something, okay, so the product is not identifiable, in that case the time of supply will be reduction of that voucher because उस दिन मुझे पता चलेगा what is the value which I had received. So for that purpose that time will be the time of supply in case of voucher. Sir, बहुत basic सी चीज है, this term is very basic, hence I am not going to in detail. Just we need to take in our mind in case of supply of goods under forward charge, the time of supply is your date of invoice. But in case of reverse charge, when you got the goods or date of entry in the books of accounts or payment whichever is earlier or 30 days from the date of invoice. In तीनों में से whichever earlier will be your time of supply. Next, section 12 subsection 5 says ये सब करने के बाद if you are not eligible, if you are not able to decide the time of supply, in that case your time of supply will be your due date of your return filing, date on which you are going to file the return is your time of supply. That is, if I make certain supply in the month of March 2023. Okay, but I am not able to decide the time of supply. In that case, on which date I am going to file the return of March month, the date shall be treated as my time of supply, and on that date I need to pay the tax. Okay, sir. Next, in other cases, the tax on which is to be paid. That means, just suppose if I am not going to file the GSTR 3B return, but I have paid the tax in our cash ledger, in my cash ledger. In that case, the date of payment of tax will be treated as my time of supply. Sir, this is a very basic concept. Okay. Next, section 12, subsection 6. If I got late payment, that is, if I supplied the goods to Mr. X and I got late payment, and for that purpose, I added interest with my invoice. In that case, on which date I am going to add that interest or penalty, the addition date will be my time of supply, and from that date I need to pay the tax. Is that okay? Section 12, subsection 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sir, each and everything is okay. Please comment in the chat box so that we can discuss on section 13, that is time of supply of services. बहुत basic सा हमने discuss किया in case of goods. Two important parameter in case of forward charge, in case of reverse charge. In case of voucher, identifiable, then issue date. If not identifiable, redemption date. अगर इन सबसे decide नहीं कर पा रहा हूँ, I am not able to decide, in that case the date of filing the return or the tax payment. In case of any addition, interest or penalty, in that case date of addition will be my time of supply. Is that okay? I am waiting for your comments in the chat box so that I can start the discussion. Okay, sir. Section 13, time of supply in case of services. Sir, services के case में time of supply क्या होगा? So there is also two parameter in case of supply of goods, in case of supply of services. Okay, we had already discussed that in case of supply of services, if I got the advance on account of services, then I need to pay the tax on advances also. So here section 13 subsection 2 talks about forward charge or earliest of following, your date of issue of invoice or payment whichever is earlier, receipt of payment whichever is earlier. Okay, sir. This is the basic thing. Conceptually, हमने discuss कर लिया. We discussed on the basis of concept that in case of supply of services, the time of supply will be your date of issue of invoice or your payment. If you had not issued the invoice, in that case, the provision of invoice or receipt of payment, whichever is earlier. Sir, what do you mean by provision of invoice? So we will discuss on that with section 31. Then next. Section 13 subsection 3, that is in case of supply in respect of reverse charge mechanism. So in case of supply of services, you are not going to getting any type of receipt of goods. There is a services. So the date of payment is entered in the books of accounts or payment is debited from bank account, whichever is earlier, is your time of supply. Is that okay? In case of supply of services, just then you made the payment or on this date payment has been debited from your bank account. In दोनों में से whichever is earlier will be your time of supply. Second, if you are not going to decide the time of supply from this, in that case 60 days from the date of issue of your invoice वो आपका मान लिया जाएगा time of supply. So in case of goods there is time limit of 30 days, but in case of services there is a timeline of 60 days. Is that okay, sir? Now, in case of voucher, same provision will apply if you got any voucher related to services. In that case, if the service is identifiable, in that case, the time of supply will be issue date, and is not identifiable. In that case, your redemption date will be your time of supply. Section 13, subsection 5 talks about ऊपर वाला सब करके you are not able to decide the time of supply. In that case, your return filing की date or tax on or the date on which you are going to pay the tax will be your time of supply. In case if there is any addition due to interest or late fees on the day on which the addition is going to be done in your books of accounts, that date shall be charged or treated as your time of supply. Sir, is that okay? Section 13, section 14. Is that section 12, section 13. Is that okay? Now, section 14, change in rate of tax in case of supply of goods or services. Naresh, yes, in case of advance payment, there is a provision of GST. That means if someone has come with me and says, sir, I want your consultation in a particular case, in that case, he has given me an advance of rupees 50,000. Okay, in that case, I need to pay the taxes on the advance amount, because in case of service, GST will be applicable on advances also. Now, section 14, change in rate of tax in respect of supply of goods or services. That is, just take an example. If I had provided the goods and after transporting the goods, that is after delivery of goods, the rate of tax has changed. In that case, question is that if payment is due or if invoice is due, okay, in that case, question is that what will be the rate of GST? Prior to change, the rate will be applicable, or post change, the rate will be applicable, because this is completely based on the time of supply. If your time of supply is prior, in that case old rate will be applicable. If your time of supply will be post, in that case the post rate will be applied. So basically देखा जाए ना, so we now realize that what is the importance of time of supply. Due to only this single term, the rate has also changed under GST. Or if you pay the tax, if you pay the tax as per wrong rate, in that case multiple penal provisions will be there on you. Okay, so now one question is there. Yes, you are going to assume that the advance amount is received is as per your inclusive of your GST. This practice is not correct, because government says at the time of invoice you need to decide the term. Okay, you need to decide that what is your taxable value, what is your CGST, what is your SGST. At the time of receiving your advance payment, you just need that this is my advance payment and this is a taxable value of your supply, not the part of tax, because tax is not determined at that time, because the final supply is not determined. Okay, so logically it is not correct and lawfully it is not correct. You need to pay the tax on your advance amount treated as your taxable value. Okay, or at the time of final invoicing, you can adjust that figure. Okay, I have paid that tax, already paid that tax, so I need to pay the tax on balance amount. Okay, so government don't want the loss of revenue, so please take care of these things, because as the currently there is no problem. Whatever you are doing, everything is right, but at the time of business audit, at the time of departmental audit, at the time of litigation, this is the biggest issue. They will going to charge GST on that figure also, and they will also treat those payment under section 73 of CGST Act, that is your section 73, and they will impose penalty of 10 to 15% also. So this is a biggest issue. So pay the tax on advance tax as treated as a taxable value. Okay, sir. Murthy ji, is that okay? We may discuss on that point in on WhatsApp in a detailed way also, not an issue. Now, section 14, change in rate of tax. Okay, now just discuss on that. Sir, in case the goods or services both have supplied before the change in rate of tax, that means I have provided my services or I had supplied the goods before change in rate of tax. Okay, in that case, invoice or payment both after change in rate. That means I had provided my services. I had provided my services, but the payment is still due or invoice is still due. In that case, what is the time of supply? Invoice or payment, whichever is earlier. Okay, just take an example. I had provided the services on 1610. Rate of tax change हो गई 1710. Okay, rate of tax हो गई 1710 को, और I had done the payment. I had received the payment on 1810, and invoice is on 1910. In that case, I or P, whichever is earlier, invoice or payment, whichever is earlier वाला provision applicable हो जाएगा. The invoice and payment, whichever is earlier, will be your time of supply. Next scenario, invoice issued prior to change. You had issued the invoice, but the payment received after the change in rate. In that case, your invoice date will be your time of supply. That means I had provided certain services at that time. The rate of those services was 12%. Okay. And I had done the invoice work. That is, I had provided invoices to my recipient, but the payment is still due. In that case, after the change in rate, the rate will be 18%. In that case, time of supply will be your rate of invoice. In that case, rate of GST will be your 12% only. So that is what is the effect which will affect your tax rate also, the time of supply. Okay, sir. Next, if payment received prior to change but invoice is after change, in that case your date of receipt of payment is your time of supply. Okay. Next, in case the goods or services or both have supplied after the change in rate of tax, that means you had issued invoice prior to the change in rate of tax, or you had received the payment prior to change in rate of tax, but the supplies after the change in rate of tax. In that, what will be the scenario? So for that, payment after the change of rate but invoice is issued before the change in rate, then in that case time of supply shall be your receipt of payment date. Okay, payment is after but invoice is prior. In that case your date of payment will be your time of supply. Okay, or the rate which is applicable after the change in rate, which will be your effective rate for the transaction or for that activity. Next, payment or invoice both prior to change in rate but the supplies post. In that case, time of supply will be your invoice or payment, whichever is earlier. Okay, next scenario, payment receipt prior to change but invoice after change. In that case your invoice date will be your time of supply. There is no requirement to ratna these things. We just need to conceptually clear our mind. We just need to make our mind in these things. Okay, invoice or payment दोनों पहले है. In that case, invoice or payment, whichever is earlier. Okay, sir. So this is the basic principle, and this has affected completely our GST law. Okay, everything is okay. If you have any issue, then please comment in chat box, or if the section 12, 13 or 14 is clear in your mind, then also comment in the chat box so that I can start my discussion on section 31, that is tax invoice. Sir, Your comment is required. Section 31 tax invoice. A registered person supplying taxable goods shall before or at the time. Just take an example. If I am a supplier of goods, in that case, if I am supplying the goods, in that case, before removal of the goods, I need to issue the invoice. This is a journal point that if I am going to transport certain goods or if I am going to sell certain goods, in that case, the basic principle is that I need to issue the invoice. Okay, with that invoice, I need to give that goods to the transporter. Okay, so the tax invoice is mandatory in that case. So tax invoice is to be issued before removal of your goods or at the time of removal of your goods. If there is no removal, okay, so if I am just transferring the title in the goods, so the invoice is required at the time of delivery of goods. If there is removal, in that case, invoice is required at the time of removal. But if there is no removal, there is a just if there is no removal, there is a just a transfer of title. In that case, at the time of delivery, invoice is required. Okay, sir. This is related to my supply of goods. A registered person supplying taxable services. In case I am going to provide the taxable services shall before or after the provision of service but within a prescribed period. Okay, so in case of service, when I am going to provide the service, I need to issue the tax invoice. Okay, but there is a prescribed limit also available in different cases. Okay, if I am talking about works contract point of view, as an architecture, I am providing the services in a project. In that case, after completion of that project, I need to raise the invoice. So the time will be based on the agreement. Definitely, the time plays a very important role, and again, I am saying that multiple conditions are based on your agreement. So, whenever you are going to sign any agreement, you first need to check each and every aspect and each and every effect of that agreement on your terms and conditions. Okay, so in case of supply of services, at the time of supply of services, you need to prepare the invoice. But if there is any agreement and on the behalf of that agreement, there is a term in which you need to issue the tax invoice. In that case, the same should be issued within that timeline, notwithstanding anything contained in subsection 1. A registered person may, within 1 month from the date of issuance of certificate of registration, just take an example. I am a businessman, okay, and I am running my business. But now my my turnover has got exceeded. My turnover has crossed the limit, the basic limit for GST registration. So now I need to take the registration, and I had applied for that registration within 30 days from the date of my liability. In that case, the provision is that I am eligible to issue the invoices from the date of my liability, but my registration will be allotted after that date, because I am going to apply, but I was liable from last 30 days. In that case, for those dates, for those period, I am eligible to issue the tax invoice also. I just need to issue those invoice under ARN or under some note. Okay, and after allotment of GSTN, I need to issue new tax invoice, revised tax invoice within 1 month from the date of issue of my registration certificate, in which I need to mention the GSTN. Is that okay? So this concept is okay. Date of liability, we will also discuss on that at the time of section 18, credit in special circumstances. But now I am just going to discuss the basic part of this section. That is, if I am liable for registration and I am going for registration within 30 days, in that case, for that period, I am eligible to take the input and I am eligible to sell the products, and I am going to sell those products. In that case, I need to sell those products under ARN. until the GSTN is allotted to me. And after allotment, within 30 days, within 1 month, I need to issue the revised tax invoice. So section 31 subsection 1 का clause number A clear है क्या? Now, section 31, subsection 3, clause number B. A registered person may not issue a tax invoice if the value of goods or services both supplied is less than 200 rupees. If the value of supply is less than 200 rupees, in that case, there is no requirement to issue the tax invoice. I may issue the bulk invoice at the end of day or at the end of week, whatever will be the nature, whatever will be the tendency of my business. Okay. Next, if I am registered as a composition taxable person or I am exempted, in that case, I need to issue the bill of supply instead of the tax invoice. I am not eligible to issue the tax invoice. I need to issue the bill of supply. Sir, what do you mean by composition taxable person? In case of composition taxable person, if my turnover is below 1.5 crore rupees, in that case, I am eligible to adopt the composition taxable scheme. Okay. Or under composition taxable person scheme, I need to pay the tax on a concessional rate, that is 1% or 6%, and I am also not eligible to take any input tax credit. That is what is the section 10 of CGST Act. We had already discussed on that. Okay, sir. Now, a registered person on receipt of advance, that is, I am a supplier of service, and if I am receiving any advance, in that case, I need to issue the receipt voucher. Or just take an example. If someone has come with me and said that I want this consultancy services and I got an advance of rupees 50,000 rupees. Okay. Somehow I am not able to provide that service. In that case, I am going to give back that 50,000 to that person. In that case, I need to issue the refund voucher. Okay. So when I am taking any advance, I need to issue the receipt voucher and I am going to give back that amount. In that case, I need to issue the refund voucher. Okay, in case of section 31 subsection 4, that is in case of continuous supply of services. If I am involving in a project in which I need to provide the continuous services, in that case I need to issue the invoice on a timely basis. That is, whatever will be the timeline prescribed under the agreement. On the basis of your agreement, I need to issue the invoices. I already discussed on that term in our earlier section. Okay. Section 31, subsection 5. Subject to the provision of clause D of subsection 3, in case of continuous supply of service, where the due date is payment is as certainable from the contract, in that case, वो contract की date पे I need to issue the invoice, or when I receive the statement on that date, I need to issue the invoice. Okay, sir. One question is there from Sureshji. Section 12, subsection 2, again, please. Section 12, subsection 2 of CGST Act, that is time of supply. In that case, advance payment. Sir, there is a provision that in case of supply of goods, if I got any advances on account of goods, in that case, there is no GST on advances on account of goods. Okay. In section 12, subsection 2, they provided that the time of supply will be your date of issue of invoice or date of payment, whichever is earlier. So, if I am doing the supply of goods and I got an advance of rupees 50,000 rupees, but as per notification, government says that there is no GST on advances. Hence, I said that please remove this term. You should just keep in your mind that in case of supply of goods, the date of issue of invoice will be your time of supply. You should not care of your advances because there is no GST on advances. Okay, sir. It can be applicable to tender time. Naresh, I am not getting your point. Please give me your reference. What is your reference? In which reference you are saying that these lines? So, Suresh, your doubt is clear in case of section 12 or subsection 2. Okay. Naresh, you may consult with me on WhatsApp. Okay. You may text me on WhatsApp so that we can discuss over that. Now, section 31, subsection 6, notwithstanding anything contained in subsection 1, where the goods being sent on taken or approval. Just take an example. If I given certain goods to Mr. X on approval basis, that is, I said that person that you can use those products for a limited time. After that, you should give me a consent that you are going to buy those product or not. So there is, if within 6 months वो ये कह देता है, if that person said that I am going to buy that product, in that case that point is my time of supply. But if he is not going to buy that product within 6 months, in that case the date of transfer till the date of 6 months, in that case the 6 month ending period is your time of supply. The date on which your 6 month got completed, at that date the term treated as your time of supply, and that is treated as your sales, and you need to pay the tax. Yes, GST is payable on advances of services only, not on the goods. I am going to discuss on this point only, that if I am going to supply any goods and I have received any goods, in that case there is no GST on advances. But if I am going to supply any services and I am getting any advances on account of those services, in that case GST will be applicable. Sir, this is all about from my side. We had discussed on section 12, 13 or 14, that is time of supply. After that, we had discussed on section 31, that is related to your tax invoice. Is that okay, sir? So supply is okay hai. After that, we had discussed on composite and mixed supply. Then we had discussed on the reverse charge mechanism, concept of RCM. Then we had discussed on the time of supply, that is time of supply in case of goods, in case of services, and the most important part, the change in rate of tax. We had discussed on all these terms in our today's session. If you have any query, you may raise the query in the chat box, or you may connect with me over call or WhatsApp, not an issue. Okay, sir, so it's sufficient for today. We will meet on tomorrow. So thank you, stay connected for more updates. Good night.